Well, hi, and welcome back to our next session. Our third speaker of the day, who will be Joanne De Sousa. I'm Stephen Cook. I'm Head of Policy and Communications at British Safety Council, and I'm chairing this event today, which is the Keep Thriving Wellbeing Conference 2022. So without further ado, just to introduce Joanne De Sousa. Joanne is Business Development Manager at PiLON Limited. Hi, Joanne, and created a wellbeing initiative which won a British Safety Council International Safety Award for wellbeing. And with a background working in the health and fitness sector, Joanne now works in the construction sector for contractor PiLON Limited and has led the initiative to improve how the company supports the mental and physical wellbeing of its employees. So Joanne, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello everyone. My name is Joanne De Sousa, as Stephen mentioned, and I work as Business Development Manager at PiLON. So last year, PiLON were awarded Wellbeing Initiative of the Year at the British Safety Council's International Safety Awards. And this is the reason I'm speaking here today, which I'm nervous about, but also really pleased to share some of the things that we've been doing to improve our wellbeing offering. I'll be talking about the driving force behind the initiative was, what we wanted to achieve, what we did, and of course, the outcome and our future plans. I'm personally really passionate about both physical and mental well-being, and although I now work in the construction sector, I spent 10 years prior to this working in the health and fitness industry. I taught fitness classes, gave gym inductions to people who had never stepped foot in a gym before, and I also personal trained many people from all different backgrounds. Now, while I might not be directly helping people with their physical health day to day anymore, I am able, and we're all able to, in fact, support our colleagues with good wellbeing practices. My hope is that some of the things that we at PiLON have done and learned from will be things that you might take away and implement on your own workplaces. We don't have to be in specific roles or have experience to be able to implement positive initiatives and positive change within our businesses. Anyone who's willing can make a difference. And let's face it, in this climate, if you did make a suggestion to improve wellness in your organisation, your HR or management department will very likely approve it. So going back to January 2020, I had just joined PiLON, and on my second day in the role, I attended a conference where one of the keynote speakers was the president of the Chartered Institute of Housing, Aileen Evans. And she gave a brilliant and terrifying, actually, speech on the poor mental health and suicide statistics within our industry. So after I had digested all that information, I just thought, I've got to be involved in improving this. So over the course of the next week or so, I spoke to our managing director, who gave me the thumbs up to create a wellbeing initiative with my colleagues, our health and safety manager and our HR assistant. Now, some of the people we have and will hear from today, and perhaps tuning in right now, are experts in this area. I'm not. However, we had 3 passionate people who wanted to do something to improve the lives of our colleagues. We just had to start somewhere. Specifically, we wanted the initiative to focus on mental health, raising awareness of it, opening a dialogue where our colleagues would feel comfortable to talk about it, and of course, providing direct access to support resources for anyone who may need it. We created a plan with various stages. The first was to raise awareness within our company of mental health issues, to remove any potential stigma and to create some conversations around it as well. We wanted the information about our campaign and access to the support resources to be visible and available to all our colleagues. So the first thing we did, I spoke with our in-house IT team about creating a wellbeing webpage specifically for support resources, information on mental health issues, details on how we can support ourselves and others, and to also provide a place where our colleagues could share anonymous stories of their own experiences with ill mental health. It could be directly or indirectly through their friends and family. And the idea with this was strengthen unity and to hopefully show people that they're not alone if they are going through a difficult time with their mental health. and the stories coming from their colleagues may have a bigger impact because they're closer to them and will show how we can all face difficulties at any time. It may also help removing any negative stigma through misunderstanding. So we worked together to turn this vision from a terrible A3 drawing into a fully functioning support webpage, and we even created a QR code which sends you directly to that Wellbeing webpage. I then spoke with our marketing executive to create some posters that we would put in our site compounds and offices. Now, with the nature of our work, we don't have the one big office space where all our colleagues are based. And I suppose much like now, with more and more people working from home and remotely, but we do still need to connect with these colleagues. So we created some A3 posters with the main message that it's okay not to be okay. These included the QR code directing them to the Wellbeing webpage, information on what types of mental health issues we might suffer, information on how and where to get support, and how to support our colleagues who may also be suffering. The posters are visible in all our site compounds and offices and are placed next to the health and safety at work posters, which signifies the importance that we're placing on our mental health. Now, one of the things that I realised when I was doing all of this was that so many people, and I was one of them a few years ago, assume that when we use the term mental health issues, we automatically think of the very severe cases. We may not identify mental health symptoms as someone experiencing stress or anxiety or OCD. And to address this, on our website and on those posters, we've got around 25 words, all symptoms that you could suffer from. And I had so many conversations on the back of this with my colleagues about how they had experienced at least one of those issues or symptoms in the past week alone. They didn't even realise that these were things that could be classed as ill mental health symptoms. Some of these included depression, addiction, PTSD, panic attacks, insomnia, and so on. Another perception was the length of time that someone might experience ill mental health. So some people assumed that mental health issues were all long-term, which we know isn't the case. Once we had our support website and posters directing employees in place, COVID-19 hit, and all our plans for face-to-face wellbeing checks and exercise and mindful classes, they had to go on hold. We then had to adapt our plans to suit the new and challenging environment. Throughout lockdown, our managing director, Vlad Nedelku, personally telephoned every employee to offer tailored support. We held weekly Zoom meetings to ensure all our staff members were kept informed on both the latest government guidance and as a business as well. And we paired this with our other aim, which was to enjoy time together as a team and hopefully reduce loneliness. We held quizzes, played bingo, and shared photos of what we'd been up to. And this was something that our colleagues really enjoyed and look forward to each week. It was nice to see the photos of what everyone had been doing, you know, baking bread, walking the dog, and taking on DIY projects. And it helped bond us as a team as well. And it was definitely something that each week we all looked forward to. The calls were so well received that we still continue to do them now. Less often, but every few months we get together on a call to discuss business updates, keeping everyone feeling involved and having fun together playing either bingo or a quiz. Our weekly meetings, they had a consistent attendance rate of over 90%, which did help support our aim of preventing feelings of isolation, and it did deepen our colleague relationships as well. We also ran exercise classes, which were really well received. I contacted a personal trainer and friend of mine who had began taking online classes, and we arranged for her to take an online class for all our colleagues. And this was great because we were all working from home. Well, many of us were working from home at the time or furloughed, and it got us active and engaging with one another while doing something positive for our health. When the rules began to relax and we were able to join colleagues in the offices again, I arranged a wellbeing day at our main office in Bracknell. The day would have seen health assessments for all our colleagues with a local gym and physiotherapy companies. I planned a healthy lunch for colleagues, stretching and exercise sessions, and talks on wellbeing and nutrition as well. Unfortunately, COVID reared its head again, and just a week before the event, I had to cancel it. So we've now got this planned for later this year. Moving back to the virtual, I arranged a mental health seminar for our employees and extended this invitation to clients, consultants, suppliers, and other friends of PiLON. I wanted to extend the invitation because with the positive message that we're trying to promote, it was very much the more the merrier. I opened the seminar with 15 minutes or so discussing what is meant by mental health, good or bad. I then included a short anonymous survey for everyone with 3 questions. One of the questions was, in the past week, have you experienced a mental health issue? I then shared the result with everyone on the call. We had over 65 responses, and of that 65, 60% answered yes, they had experienced a mental health issue or symptom within the last week. With this result, and the answers obviously coming from themselves or their peers, I think it demonstrated so clearly that why these conversations are important and why we need to better understand and improve the reasons behind that result. It was quite a high percentage, higher than usual perhaps, and I think that after seeing so clearly the types of mental health symptoms that we might face, coupled with it being done during a lockdown period, I'm sure was a contributor to that. Our keynote speaker for the seminar was Chartered Institute of Housing President Aileen Evans. Now, Aileen is an experienced mental health campaigner and the person who inspired me on my second day with her speech at the conference I mentioned earlier. She delivered a fantastic presentation on her own experiences, which was far more engaging and relatable than many of us expected. And this was the first time that many of our employees had been exposed to a workplace initiative specifically aimed at mental well-being. To have the whole business and other organisations that were close to PiLON focused for an hour solely on understanding and learning about mental health was really powerful. Both myself and PiLON's Managing Director Vlad were flooded with messages of praise following that discussion, with many heartfelt and personal thanks to our peers, from our peers and colleagues who have experienced mental health issues themselves, either directly or supported friends or family who have. It was such a success and a huge achievement in our campaign, and it demonstrated the ability that we have as a company to facilitate and encourage openness and discussion on what can be a really difficult topic to address. To ensure that we had a firmer foundation to our campaign and to support our colleagues, we enrolled myself and 2 of my colleagues on the mental health first aid qualification. We were able to do the training virtually, and it was spread over 3 days, which I think was brilliant because it makes it more accessible whilst not causing too much of a disruption to the workload. And in fact, in our most recent course done last month, it was spread over 2 weeks, which was very helpful. It's a really interesting course, and I learned so many useful ways which I can help support my colleagues. We now have 13 members of staff who have completed the course, meaning around 15% of our employees are qualified mental health first aiders. When I shared that I had completed the course on LinkedIn and how pleased I was, the post received so much engagement. I had so many comments from people I didn't even know saying how they'd also completed the training and how brilliant it was. Some people were asking me how they can book the course for themselves, which was great. And I think around 740 or so people liked that post. So it's clearly a very popular topic. Most of my posts get around 20 likes to give you a bit of a comparison there. Now, after attending another inspirational and inspiring wellbeing webinar, where gauging employee mood was discussed, I thought that it would be a good idea to have a mood board at the entrance to our offices. So we have a mood board, it's A3 in size, presented landscape, and it has 3 faces, a sad face, a neutral face, and a happy face. And when employees arrive at work, they place a small magnet next to the face which best represents their feelings for that day. It then provides our management and people and culture teams to gauge the mood in the office and, if necessary, act to improve on it. It could be something as small as walking around the office that day to say hello and speak to staff, getting some treats for lunch, or even bringing some fun into the office at lunchtime, which in our office would be playing the PlayStation, for example, which usually creates a bit of a buzz with everyone. I started researching other ways that we can improve our offering, and I came across a mental health charter. It was specifically for our industry called the Building Mental Health Charter. And by signing this, you are committing your company to improving mental health within our industry. Their website also has lots of useful tools to enable you to do it. And while it is aimed at the construction sector, I'm sure there are many like it within your industry. And if not, this is a great resource for information, and you could still make your own commitment for your workplace. One of the main things with our drive to improve mental health and wellbeing in general was to share everything that we'd implemented and learnt. We wanted to offer the best support that we could, but not only to our employees, but to everyone we work with and everyone that we don't. And one of the ways that we did this was through the forums and networking events that we attended. We shared as much as we could about the charter, the support resources available, and the initiatives that worked really well for us, like the weekly meetings. We also put on social media and we sponsor charities that are raising awareness and offering support as well. And we want PiLON to be a driving force behind our industry to becoming more wellbeing focused, and we hope that we're leading the way with that. In December 2020, there was no hope of holding a Christmas party, but we still wanted to thank our colleagues for their hard work during such an incredibly tough year. So without the budget for 150 fancy hampers, we made our own, which included a fitness band with exercise and stretch instructions, a Christmas card, face mask and hand gel. It was 2020 after all, and lots of other goodies to enjoy. We even shipped some of these overseas to colleagues that were working remotely, and we opened them on the call together, and it was just a really nice way of feeling connected and celebrating together, albeit virtually. In early 2021, our staff arranged and took part in a fundraising campaign for the charity Mind, who do some fantastic work supporting those suffering with mental health issues. The initiative encouraged our staff to get moving while also fundraising for the charity. We set a target to walk, run or jog 1,000 miles to raise £1,000 throughout the month. The campaign didn't limit people to just running, however, and we counted other workouts in the equivalent miles just to encourage all movement. And those who took part were also part of a WhatsApp group where they would share photos, log their miles, and encourage each other to go out and move. In total, we achieved more than 1,000 miles, and we raised, I think, around £1,400 for Mind. The initiative worked really well alongside our existing employee benefits, which encourage a healthy lifestyle. We provide things like fruit in the main office, access to a wellness hub via Perk Box. It has articles, workouts, mindfulness videos, discounted gym memberships, and an employee assistance program. That wasn't specifically part of this initiative. That's something we offer anyway at PiLON. So it was around that time that we entered the British Safety Council's Wellbeing Initiative of the Year at the International Safety Awards. And in case you hadn't already guessed, we were awarded joint first place. I was on maternity leave at the time. However, I was in the office that day for a keeping in touch day when we found out, and we were all over the moon. I was skipping around the office for the rest of the day. And for all of us at PiLON, it just validated our efforts to improve our employee wellbeing, and it encouraged us even more to continue the work that we're doing. The award category had, and I think these figures are correct, Stephen can correct me if I'm wrong, 392 submissions. And while that's even more impressive for us to win with so much competition, what's really amazing is that 392 organisations felt that they had an award-winning wellbeing initiative. It's incredible to see how many organisations are realising the benefits of investing in and supporting the wellbeing of their staff. In fact, very recently, when looking to recruit new talent within our company, we've seen a shift in what's expected from a workplace. When posting a job advert, there's a list of around 20 employee benefits, where you tick the ones that apply to your company, and a large majority of those are actually related to your wellbeing offering. It's also been mentioned by candidates that one of the things that attracted them to PiLON was our stance on employee wellbeing campaigns and our improvements we're looking to do around mental health within the sector. So not only is it helping us to retain and support our existing team, but it's helping us attract new talent too. You could say that the planning of our initiative wasn't very smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. It was sparked by a feeling and a passion to help, coupled with navigating and changing our plans due to COVID. We did what we could and what we felt would have the most impact to our end goal at that time. Saying this, we did measure where we could. We measured the levels of engagement through things like feedback, attendance, uptake, and generally the mood from staff at certain events. For example, on a Zoom call, you can tell if somebody's engaged or whether they're bored and tuning off. Hopefully that's not anyone on the call right now. So we knew based on the amount of people engaging and feeding back to us that it was having our desired outcome. So what did we get out of this? Well, it's well documented that a happier workforce means better performance, lower staff churn, and less sick leave. But more specifically, we saw a huge improvement in our employees' awareness of mental health, particularly their understanding the types of issues that people might suffer. And this improved awareness also led to a more compassionate workforce with really noticeable difference. Our employees were very appreciative of the initiatives that we put in place, and we received so much positive feedback throughout the year for what we were doing. Not only was the feedback positive, but it was also genuine and heartfelt, not your typical, oh thanks, that was great feedback. But we even had feedback from our clients and other external organisations for things that they were included in. And to give you an example of the impact that it had on people, I'm going to read just two of the emails that I received after the mental health webinar. The first is from a PiLON employee. Many thanks for organising this kind of meeting, and I must admit you have covered a very sensitive subject about mental health issues and people not feeling comfortable to admit or talk when there's a problem. I hope the coaching you have noted in your agenda will have a real impact on everyone in our organisation. The second is from someone outside our organisation. Thank you for the invitation to today's discussion. It was very encouraging to hear the changing attitudes towards this subject. It's hard to hear something close to home at times, but I'm so pleased that you're addressing this issue. And this, I hope, is a clear demonstration of why we should all be looking at our own wellbeing plans and offerings and thinking of ways to improve them. For this year, we have started a wellbeing committee with 9 wellbeing advocates who have all volunteered. We wanted to have a committee of employees as we felt that initiatives would be better received being led and driven by colleagues rather than one single department or person. We have representatives from our bids team, finance, health and safety, HR, and customer service departments who all have a passion for wellbeing. And having the committee will allow us to share the workload, including planning the events and communications, and will also mean we have more ideas to bounce off one another. Our senior management and board have been brilliant supporting and empowering us to provide wellbeing initiatives, as well as approving the associated financial costs. Our plans for this year include upgrading our wellbeing website, I spoke about earlier, to be more interactive, to push even further the usage to our staff. We'll be looking at ways to further measure each initiative, such as visits to the webpage, uptake of activities, and overall ratings and feedback within our employee engagement surveys. We have plans for team building activities, an employee summer fair, wellbeing days with health assessments, fitness and walking challenges, another mental health webinar because that was really well received, and a refresher we think would be great, and plenty of other events to recognise the national days highlighted within our wellbeing calendar. This year, we also have the assistance of Florentina, who is our new Head of People and Culture, who brings her experience arranging similar events. And one of the first things that Florentina did was to change the department, formerly known as Human Resources, to People and Culture. We moved away from the HR terminology because it's a term that can be perceived as the transactional, day-to-day hiring and firing department. It's usually known for paperwork, policies, procedures, and policing compliance. And we believe that the people and culture function is so much more than seeing people as a resource, and instead recognising them as individuals with needs that have to be fulfilled, and enabling a culture that incorporates their emotional and physical safety. Since we changed the department's name, we've already seen a shift in how colleagues perceive the function as more proactive, progressive business partner. And the emphasis now revolves around teams, the environment, and it allows for a more people-centric style that focuses on colleagues' well-being, engagement, growth, and development. With the change in name, the people and culture team's attention and activities have shifted as well, seeing them focus on the culture of the organisation with things like values. And the aim of this is to have a positive, meaningful impact on colleagues' engagement, with the ultimate goal of the people and culture department being able to improve colleagues' happiness, productivity, and of course, well-being. The culture of our workplace, being in the construction sector, is very health and safety orientated, and well-being links in so heavily with this. If we're experiencing a mental health symptom, for example, we might not be performing work safely, could lead to an accident on site, or for office-based staff, potentially being very removed or distracted, could lead to a mistake that is costly for the business. So having colleagues and managers trained, or at the very least more aware of the mental health issues and symptoms, could mean that they're able to spot when someone is displaying any of these symptoms and respond by taking the time to talk to and support them if necessary. And a culture where this is encouraged also opens up the door to colleagues feeling comfortable to come to us in the first instance and not to keep quiet. And this leads nicely into an employee assistance programme. We're very fortunate to have access to an employee assistance programme, and here employees can use it at any time to receive advice and support from someone who's trained to deal with these things. And there are lots of different services that offer it. Ours comes with our employee benefit scheme perk box. So with PiLON having our plans in motion to improve our existing offerings and some new and exciting initiatives on our committee's agenda, I really hope that you can take something from this and are motivated to start or improve your organisation's wellbeing offering. We've by no means the perfect solution, but we are trying, and we're committed to leading by example. And if you're trying too, then we are moving in the right direction. The last thing that I wanted to mention was related to greenwashing. Now, for anyone who's unfamiliar with the term, it's typically used when you brand something as eco-friendly, green, or sustainable, when it's not actually the case. And it misleads consumers into thinking that they're helping the planet by choosing those products. And why I mention greenwashing is because we need to be committed to actually making a change to our organisation's culture. And if we're not, and we think that one wellbeing event will make a difference and use that to market our company as brilliant at employee wellbeing, then it is the equivalent of greenwashing. I'm not sure what that term would be, and hopefully there's never a need for one either. So thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned, please do feel free to ask them. I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joanne. A really helpful and useful and practical session, I think, as well. So very clear and comprehensive. Thank you. And we do have lots of good questions actually for you. So I think we're going to easily take up the next, say, 10 or 15 minutes that we have left before our lunch. So you mentioned measurement, and you did include some of the measures that you have used. So there was a couple of questions around measurement, but have you seen an improvement in the well-being of staff as one follow on? And also, how does it help you, say, with your senior managers as well in terms of using some of those insights? Has that been beneficial?
It's very difficult because it's one of the things, well-being is it's very difficult to measure. It's so fluid, isn't it? Especially in regards to mental health. It's something that during one single day could change so much. But our main focus has been to ensure that we have the work environment and culture where people feel supported to do that, to come forward, to ask for help if they need it. Measurement wise, one of our most recent employee surveys, we noticed that the word supportive kept coming up a lot when we were asking about strengths as an employer. 43 times, in fact, that came forward. You also have things like sick leave. It's something we need to improve on, measuring it. But like I said, it is so fluid. It's one of those things that is more noticeable and less tangible. So yes, we have noticed a difference. The senior management have the mood board, for example, that's just opposite me to gauge perception, and also feedback that we receive is probably the best answer I can give you in regards to that.
And just as a follow on to that as well, I mean, a couple of people have asked actually about what happens. Sometimes you can get a drop off. You start the initiative, it goes really well, lots of people are engaged. And have you noticed or had to respond to any kind of drop off or lack of engagement having started this?
Yeah, interesting. It has been the opposite. We found more and more people want to be engaged. So, for example, the Wellbeing committee that we initiated this year, we asked for volunteers. We have around 85 employees, direct employees. We asked for volunteers, and thinking we'd get maybe 4 or 5, and we ended up with a campaign or a committee with 9 or 10. So yeah, it's been a real grower. Yeah, it's kept going. We've just had 13 or so more staff complete the Wellbeing mental health first aid training. We've got some campaigns lined up in regards to the fitness and walking challenges. So no, it's keeping momentum.
Brilliant. Well, okay, I'll try again. In terms of, was there anything you would not do again or do differently, do you think? I mean, it just this sense of, it seems to have gone brilliantly and you've done so many different things, but was there anything, or would you change anything at all in terms of what you've done?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I suppose you've always got to look at lessons learned, haven't you, in regards to the campaign. There were initiatives that were more successful in terms of feedback and more measurable. But the initiatives that weren't so, let's say, for example, sending an email. It was Time to Talk Day last week, and we sent an email encouraging people to come forward, talk, and that didn't receive, loads of feedback and lots of tangible ways to measure that. But what it does, it reinforces the campaign. It reinforces that we are a business that care about your mental health. We want to encourage conversations. So even the initiatives that you're not sure about or you think might not be so well received, if they're part of an ongoing campaign, I think it helps just reinforce the message of what your ultimate goal is. And if your goal is to change the culture, then I think they will be well received.
Okay, thank you. In terms of your sector, because obviously you're in construction, and there are a couple of questions around that. Have you seen any improvement, say, in reducing stress, which we know can be really high in construction? And also it's quite a male dominated, I guess, industry. Has there been an improvement in seeing, it helping some of the men in the organization perhaps to open up and talk a bit more? Or
that's our goal. That is our goal. When you look at the statistics and the reason behind, my driving force, the initial conference we went to was around suicide statistics. A lot of it is, and the trades, the operatives down at site level for construction, and it's how you reach them. Now, have I seen an improvement? Again, that's very difficult to tell sector-wide. We have noticed that in conversations that we've had, networking events and webinars that we've attended, there is a massive focus on mental health and people have been talking about it a lot more. So we're definitely talking about it. I think there's some initiatives, there's a lot of work to continue. We still need to continue the campaign and grow on that. But yeah, I think there's definitely been a shift in terms of noise. and what people are talking about it, but whether that's actually created an outcome that we're desiring, I think that's we've got a long way to go there. Hopefully it has in our company, but sector-wide is
sure.
Perhaps I don't have the best insight on that.
No, of course, and obviously Mates in Mind is a charity that works in your sector and can sort of work across different companies in that way, and you're probably, I don't know if you're engaged with them already, but certainly might be interesting to do so. In terms of other sectors, I mean, there's a question here about building wellbeing plans in different sectors like factories, say, where perhaps you've got different people speaking different languages or different levels of understanding. I mean, how well would your sort of initiative, do you think, play out in other sectors as well?
We have similar challenges, I guess you could say, within our own company in terms of language barrier. And it's been able to translate that. So actually the posters that we have, there's a company, the Lighthouse charity, that we work quite closely with, and they have wellbeing posters that they actually have translated themselves. So we put those on our site. So we have Polish, Romanian, different languages, because obviously you want to make it accessible to everyone. So if you're not able to translate them yourself, you don't have someone within your own organisation, there are resources out there where you could get those translations, you could reach them in other ways. But yeah, absolutely, that's a really good point, making sure that you are accessible to everyone.
Okay, well, that's really helpful suggestion to people as well, so thank you for that. So there's a couple of practical questions as well, actually. One's about becoming a health first aider. How do you have a simple or straightforward way that people can do that? I mean, there's probably many routes, aren't there? But what's the way that you might do that in your organisation, for instance?
Well, we went through Mental Health First Aid England, so that's a facilitator, and then they'll put you in touch with other organisations or training providers that are able to do that for you. But I think the British Safety Council have one as well, don't you? So that's another way of doing it. It's a really, really good course, so I would recommend everyone, to do that. Just even just raise awareness. If it's somebody who's not perhaps going to be directly managing or working with other people, for their own knowledge and benefits, it's a really good thing to do.
That's excellent. And another practical one, that's a couple of people are interested in, can they actually see the resources that you've used internally, or indeed your website at all?
You can actually, yes. The web page, we don't have an intranet system, so if you'd like to take a look, it's pilon.co.uk/wellbeing, and you'll be able to see our wellbeing web page there. I could also share with you, following this, if you'd like, some of the posters and things that we have, if you'd like to copy them or perhaps learn from them or use them in your own organisation.
Okay, we'll be following up with delegates afterwards and people who've attended, so perhaps we can include something in that. That's fantastic. There's a couple of questions around engagement, and I mean, one is, I think it's the same person who's asked both actually, but one is in terms of the challenge when you're introducing an initiative like this, is perhaps getting your staff to engage. I mean, you've obviously talked about the engagement, but maybe just unpick, how you might have gone about that, and then also your managers. So in terms of, a lot of companies do struggle with buy-in, I think, from their senior teams. So, and particularly to invest in this kind of program, how did you go about that?
That's a really good point, a very, very good point, actually. And it is a challenge, and it's a challenge that we faced initially, because when you first go to your organisation, especially if it's not within their culture already, and you put forward, we'd like to do a wellbeing campaign, or we think this is very important, they want to see facts and figures. So it relates heavily, if you go to any wellbeing website, it relates heavily to cost, so financial. So if you're trying to put it across to your managers, you can just easily show how beneficial it is, sick days, productivity, things like this. So it's very easy to get their buy-in in terms of finances. But secondly, it's raising the awareness, and that is the tricky point. We were fortunate with the webinar that we had. It was done during lockdown and done during working hours. So you might have to make it compulsory. Everybody has to attend. At first, you may get people who are perhaps not engaged, but as soon as they realise, oh, stress, oh, this, I suffer from these, and it makes it relatable to them, then you get their buy-in. Like I say, it is the perception of it being very severe and no, that doesn't relate to me, or that doesn't relate to anyone that I know. But if you are able to get the message across that no, it does relate to all of us, and in fact, these are the statistics. We did our own poll within the call, so it made it far more relatable. How many of us within this call have experienced, for example, stress, a common one, in the last 6 days? Oh, all of a sudden, you've got their buy-in because they've related it to themselves. A tricky one, but yeah, financial to your management team, and trying to explain what we mean by mental health and how we can improve it.
And did you have a budget? Is another question someone's asked.
We don't have a budget. Our budget is, hello, Mr. Manager, I've got this initiative, will you approve it? And it, yes, we're quite fortunate. We've got the buy-in, and our board and management team are very encouraging of us. So, I mean, if we had an initiative that was very, very hundreds of thousands of pounds, maybe might be a different answer, but they've been really good. And in fact, a lot of these things don't cost a lot of money. You know, arranging a webinar doesn't cost money. It costs time, of course. You've got your employees to take time out of their day to do it, but it's not a financial cost. Creating a website perhaps is, but there are resources that are already available, so you could pull from them. You don't have to create your own. There's so many things you could do that cost nothing.
Okay, well, that's helpful. And just a couple of final questions for you. One is those colleagues who are not online, say, who are just based out in the field, or aren't in an office-based job or working from home. How do you get them involved? Any suggestions?
You have to break it down. So, for example, our operatives and our trades, the Wellbeing webinar would be the site management. I'm relating it to our workforce, would be the site management, and then we have toolbox talks. So the site management, present it to them with bulletins, toolbox talks, posters, printouts and things like that, and that is demonstrated weekly. So yeah, that gets cascaded down to them at site level, and like I say, translated as well, because that could potentially be a barrier to them understanding and receiving that information.
Brilliant. And in terms of the mood boards, there's a couple of questions on that, and they're obviously people are interested in your mood boards. Did you make them, or did you buy them? Is one question.
No, I just made it. There are resources. There's an app, I think, that you can have where you're a company. I can't remember the name of it, but there's an app that you can use, and you can use that. But I just made a landscape, smiley face, sad face, beautiful face. How are you feeling today? I'm looking at it right now. How are you feeling today? We've got some magnets at the bottom. We've laminated it, and you just move a magnet with a magnetic board behind. It's really, really simple, but it's a really good indicator of the general mood of the office. And like I say, it can change throughout the day. So in the morning, you could have people that are perhaps feeling okay, put it in the middle face. Something happens and it goes to a sad or goes to a happy face. And that's for us to try and change that as well. So
I think you've just answered the next question, which is how is it monitored, and what do you do as a result of it, I guess, is the other bit of that question. Actually, how do you address, if you did spot an issue, what would happen?
It's difficult because you obviously you don't want to pinpoint someone. It's a sad face. Who that sad face is, you've got to go around the office and potentially could be them, or So what you have to do, you have to bring the whole office in. You could go around and talk. For example, the mental health first aiders or the people of culture team or the management team would go around, just see how everyone's feeling. Lunchtime's a good time to have a chat with people and try and boost the mood in the office. Like I say, it could be grabbing some cookies for lunch, something really small, having a chat with people, playing the PlayStation. In our office we have, but talking to people, actually taking time to understand how they're feeling. And most people will say, oh yeah, I'm great, how are you? Yeah, I'm great. Are you actually great? So it is digging a little bit deeper, but and that does come with the training. Like I say, the mental health training to really support these conversations that we need to have.
Well, look, Joanne, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. And thank you so much for what's been a fascinating session and really interesting. Lots of great questions from people as well. I think you'd agree. So really thank you to everyone on that as well. And sorry if we didn't get to your question. I think we pretty much covered everything, but there may have been one or two that we didn't quite get to. But we are going to have our own lunch break now. So an opportunity, obviously, again, to do something, get something to eat, obviously take a quick walk around the house, outside, whatever. Also Wellbeing Day, so do sort of follow the advice. But whatever you do, obviously try and get some time away from the screen. But it's 50 minutes, the lunch break that we're going to have. So we're going to welcome you back for our fourth session of the day, which is about financial wellbeing in the workplace at 1:15. That's 1:15 p.m. And again, go to the virtual homepage and do click on the next session, which will go blue, and you'll be able to join us at 1:15. Thank you, Joanne. See you shortly.